Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Karen, Elaine, Angela is here. Yay! Angela, we're
Hey,
gonna have
here we are.
a
Hello,
class on
everybody.
Saturday.
Thank you all for joining. Hi, Nancy
Mhm.
Jean.
Hello, Danny.
How are you?
Um, doing as fine as you can do when you're squished between eclipses. What can I say? How's
We were just talking backstage where I told Nancy Jean, I said, I feel like I've been drinking all day, which I didn't. Um, I I just feel so out of sorts, and she told me that I'm like balsamic vinegar because of the moons. So,
Yep, it's just refining everything down to that new moon. Just it brings it out of you guys. You know this what's coming up here.
oof, oof. So I had White Dragon tell me that I should go up into one of his spaceships and sit in the regenerative room. I think I'm going to take him up on it.
Well, we have a spa near us that has all the different heated rooms, and they have rooms that are gold and rooms that are colored. You can go and
Oh,
sit in
nice.
you can sit in rock salt. You can sit in all kinds of stuff,
Oh,
and they all have different make you feel different ways. It's a very fascinating, especially the light.
yeah, right. And here in my little town, they have opened up a sound room. So they have crystal sound bowls
Oh,
that they're
cool.
doing some healing stuff. And so I've booked myself a session, but it's not coming soon enough. I want it now.
Yeah, when they hit that low end bowl and it just roars through you, it's just feel like a wave
Yeah,
going right through your body. Those are
yeah,
interesting. So, what are
yeah.
we going to talk about, Danny? And I hope I brought all the toys I was supposed to bring.
I hope you did too. You better have. And let's just say hi to a couple of people, Prince Charming's mom and Karen Johnston and Carol Jaggi and Helena Robinson. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
And my person out there is Anglo O'Neill, who is in Finland, and
Oh,
she's she knows her astrology stuff.
so
Uh,
she knows then what's going on.
yeah, she's learning my garden. Except I have to get the garden to her in Finland, and that's proven to find a way to get it there has been
Yeah.
problematic. I'm working on it, girl.
And then we have an Emerald Buddha. Awesome.
Oh, cool! With green
I
hearts and
know.
everything.
That's a great name, Emerald Buddha in Kenyatta. Beautiful name. All right. Well, let's get into. So, what we're going to talk about today is just go over a little bit about different tarot cards. You can read them, according to the book, or you can read them intuitively, or you can blend them together. Is a little bit what I do. And Nancy Jean's been reading tarot. What for? You started like what 2 weeks ago reading tarot?
Try when I was 12.
Oh, 12. Oh, I misunderstood. 12.
So unless
And you're
I'm the weirdest looking 14-year-old girl in the world.
okay. Well, let me go back to this 12-year-old because that's fascinating.
Okay.
So, how did you how did you pick up? How did you look at your first deck? Who gave it to you?
I was at a slumber party, and I'm old enough that at 10 o'clock the little Indian chief came in the circle on your black
Yes,
and white TVs, and you have
yes,
no more TV, virtually no more radio. Um, so we had to entertain ourselves. Would horrify my children, but it actually would horrify me to have to go back and fill all that time. But and
right.
the deal always was we were going to stay up all night, right? And for the most part, we made it. But we had to figure out ways to entertain each other, and so we would play regular cards and all that sort of stuff. And I
Yeah.
don't know why it was, but this was back late 50s, early 60s. What when we'd be there, everybody always had a tarot deck of some sort. And the deck they normally had was this one, the Rider-Waite deck, not in a little tin can like this, but those images. And it all books, all Rider-Waite decks, and most decks come with, we call these LWVs, little white books. And
Yeah.
they tell you what the cards mean if you've never seen one, although I don't know how you could be here or not. But anyway, those, and so, and there's also like a 5-card layout of Celtic Cross. First thing I ever read was the Celtic
Yeah.
Cross. I remember it. And you lay out 10 cards.
So you didn't start off with a 1 card. You started off with the Celtic Cross.
It didn't have 1 cards. I mean, it didn't say you could use 1 cards. It
Okay.
said Celtic Cross 5 and 3. And that was in the front of the original book. So
yeah, okay.
I was sitting there and I would lay out a Celtic, we say, okay, what's happening? Da 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 da. And we all took turns reading cards. It's not like everybody deferred to me. But what happened was when I read them, they made sense. And when the other people read them, it was just either they couldn't weave the story together, because I've always been a good storyteller, which helps if you read cards. And it wasn't my own friends, although they thought it was kind of funny when I could do things. And we'd do it for a little bit. It was not like the whole evening, trust me. And but what would happen is I'm a boomer, and so everybody that I grew up with had 4 or 5 and up kids in their family, all pretty close together. And so there were all these girls who had their teenage sisters would be there. Well, they'd come by and they'd go, "Oh, can you do that? Can you read about me?" And so then I remember the one I remember most vividly was her sister was really a fun person. So was she. And it was an Italian family, so the food was always good at the sleepovers. And she came up and she said, "Oh, where's Jim? He's having a good time. He's supposed to be out with his cousin tonight." So I read the cards, and if his cousin was a blonde-haired woman, he was having a wonderful time. And of course, it didn't occur to me. I'm telling her, your boyfriend's out cheating on you. And later she found out she did. So my friend took me aside. She goes, "How the hell did you know that he was cheating on my sister?" And I said, "I didn't. I just read the cards." That became my mantra for the rest of my life, guys, since 1960. I just didn't. I was just reading the cards. And as it happened, we got some cards at Barnes & Noble up in Oak Brook. My mother was not terribly fond of them, although she wasn't that it was witchcraft or any of that crap. And I just would play with them, and they would work for me, and I enjoyed them. And I studied. I would try to read astrology and stuff, but man, that's so complicated. So
Isn't it?
cards are simple.
The people that do astrology, they blow my mind, because it's like for me, it just doesn't come. I can't get the terminology right to make sense into my head. But the cards, I guess I like the pretty pictures.
I like the cards because they're so much easier and they're so much quicker. And I don't have to carry around a computer. Or now, who would have ever pictured there'd be a day when you could have something like Astro Matrix on your phone, put in somebody's birthday and have all the stuff, But I studied it. I understand the terms. And if I really, really concentrate, I can understand what they're talking about. Right. But the other day, I'll tell you, the closest thing I've ever heard to listening to an astrologer really going into details. I was riding around with my youngest, who's into the world of tech, and is apparently having to advise a company on graphic cards to put in their new machines. So we're driving along listening to this person talk about stuff. And now I know how people who know nothing about tarot, what they feel like listening to astrology. I was like, that's the closest thing I've ever heard to listening to astrology. I mean, they have the same cadence and the same, this hooks up to that. And then, of course, you can see you have this graphic interface of blah, blah. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So I understand when people get lost. And what really pisses me off is I find a good astrologer. And Dorothy Morgan's a good one. Lalit at Astrology Rising, I think. She's going to be doing a show with me soon. Again, but they're real plain spoken and they try to keep it simple. And if they have a complicated chart, they actually break it into the pieces so you can see it. But if you don't do that, you get lost. And the best way to learn astrology is get your own chart, learn where your own planets are, and then listen to astrologers, and they'll say, this is going to happen. It's going to be at 13 degrees Gemini, and you got to watch out for it. Well, right now, the latest eclipse is going to be right on top of my natal Uranus. And you learn about Uranus because it's the one that always, when things hit it, they move your life around whether you like it or not. So it's good.
Oh, well, good for you. You're going to get moved around.
Anybody who's 73 is, because it's hitting. If it's the time Uranus would have been in that place if you're 73
All right.
or better.
But this is not about astrology. This is about tarot.
I know. So we're going to go back.
We're going to get back to tarot. So what we've done, what Nancy Jean and I have done, I find it fascinating that you started at 12 with this. And did you besides reading the Little White Book, did you take any courses in tarot?
There was no such thing in my hometown.
Okay. So
I didn't even
when
know
I
another person who read cards.
What's that?
I never even knew another person who read cards.
Well, you were only 12.
Yeah, but I knew people who did a lot of other weird shit. So
okay. I mean, I guess, and when I was 12, I heard about the Ouija board, but I didn't go near it because
I had a friend who had one. I played with it one night. I said, never again. I don't know why. It just made me.
I don't like it, but then again, people think the same thing with tarot.
Yeah.
I have some friends from Germany who won't even come in and sit in the same room that I have tarot cards in. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it's spooky to them. So
yeah, but in Germany, fascism was clearly tied to the occult under Hitler, and that makes it a much harder row for them to hoe.
Right. So, but what I think we're going to do, at least I think we're on the same page with this. You have a series of cards and you want to show the differences, as do I. And then we're going to get into a little bit of what oracles do, just a wee bit, and then maybe do some readings.
Yep.
A few, see how much time. So why don't you go with some of your cards?
Okay. This is the Rider-Waite deck, and it's the best one that I have. It's teeny tiny. And I picked 4 cards out of each deck. I picked the Ace of Wands, the 5 of Swords, because I read from a traditional deck that gives you a very different interpretation than the Rider-Waite deck. And then the Devil, and then Death. And I pulled those 4 cards out of each of the decks. The Rider-Waite is the one that we all kind of know, and it's been around since I think it was in the early 1900s that they put this deck together. But I also have a reproduction of the original Italian deck, and that was in the 1300s. That was their Ace of Wands.
Wow.
And this is their 5 of Wands, which is the other card I'm going to feature. And in the 5 of Wands, one of the stories about it is it's almost always just juvenile males fighting each other with wands, like sometimes some decks they draw where they're not even really hitting each other. And then their devil is very much a medieval devil.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really nasty. And their death is very much I don't want to get this card on my board deck, right? And the guy who invented this deck, who put this deck together, this is a little card about him. That's his name, Luigi Scapini. And you can buy his reproduction deck through U.S. Games. And the story on this guy is he did the first complete medieval deck, all of it assembled again, in 1964. And one of the things that fired him off, he's in Italy, but all over Italy, there were just bits and pieces of the original decks. People had kept them like as artwork because they were
Right.
big. I mean, they're really big cards.
Yeah.
This particular card happens to be in the Pierpont Morgan Museum in New York City, and I've actually seen it. It's all locked up like something really precious. And you can go in, and there are 3 or 4 cards from the original deck, from an original deck from that time, that are there. This guy went around and he copied all the decks. And one of the things he found was that strength was 11, not where we have it in the traditional decks now. Somewhere from when these were out originally and when they came with this deck, they reordered the numbers. And there's some readers that make a big deal out of that. I don't particularly care. I mean, I read strength, okay?
Well, if they're numerologists, then they would care. If they,
oh yeah,
right.
they would care violently, and I'm not them either. This is the Ace of Wands in the deck I use all the time, and this is Eileen Connolly. Now, Eileen Connolly also taught tarot from the late 50s until she died. She died in the 90s, I think. And she had an excellent, that's the first workbook I ever worked with. And it's a big, like old kind of old-timey learning book. And each card has its own page. She's got all kinds of notes and places you can take stuff. And she taught you to pull 1 card a day, look at it, write down your thoughts on that card.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's her Ace of Wands. And hers is
and
a
I
bright.
think, hang on one second, because I really like that. Because when I was learning tarot, I first, read all these books, and I immediately forgot all the meanings because there were so many different meanings for different things. And I'm like, okay, so I kind of retained some of that. But what really stuck with me is where you journal on the card, where you take some time, meditate on the card, think about the card, and then write your notes in your journal about the card, which really solidifies it from the tradition and incorporates the traditional meaning and your own personal meaning so that you can start telling the story.
Yeah, she'd have you say, what do the colors look like you today, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Her books, you can still find them. There were 3 books for reading tarot. I have all 3 of them with my notes from way back when. This is the 5 of Swords. Now, if you remember, the 5 of Swords is always, people in some sort of conflict and they, stabbing each other in the back. Well, I always, because I've read from this deck for almost 20 years, I always think of the 5 of Swords like this. You've gone through your life, you've been through a lot of battles, you've got all these swords or trophies or things you've learned from it. Well, now you're at a point in your life where you're going to really shine one up and you're going to move forward with that. And for me, when I read with this deck, that's the image I get for that. Yeah. Then I used to read in a wine bar, and very few people came up to my table stone cold sober. So this is the devil in this deck. And if you think about it, it's exactly what the devil means. It's you're tied to cups for love, pentacles for money, swords for stress or thinking, or tied to the wands for enterprise. And you're so busy holding on to them, you miss the spirit of your life going behind you. And when I used to really read a lot of psychic fairs in the 80s, I got this card all the time for all these women who were out avoiding being at home with a husband who was workaholic and not there anyway. This is isms. This is alcoholism, workaholism, drug addiction. When I was in college, I used to read the devil as drug, sex, rock and roll. And no offense to rock and roll, but and that
or drugs or sex.
But that card, when you get it to someone and you throw it down and it's not the devil, you can just say, okay, what are you OCD about?
Yeah.
That's the OCD card. Okay. Then my last card is death. And death really means transition. It can mean physical death, which is undoubtedly the ultimate transition in our spiritual point. But if you put this down to people, a lot of times they're getting the death card because they're really about to go through a major change. It's much easier to explain when you use that one. Okay, that's a more traditionally based deck. Then we're going to go, this is a Marchetti deck. And you can see where he's taken some of the old stuff from the medieval deck.
Yeah.
His death looks like a death. His devil looks like a hunk. That's what people are like. Oh, what a hunk.
His devil looks like a what?
A hunk. A hunky guy. Like somebody really worked out. Something,
Oh, yeah,
that
okay.
thing like, going to the gym every day. Something I'll never be accused of. And this is his Five of Swords, and it's a guy holding out one sword and holding back one. So it could be, it could be conflict and combat. And the other thing in his deck that's weird is he has four other cards. This happens to be the Palace of Swords. He has a Palace of Cups, Palace of Swords, Palace of Pentacles, and Palace of Wands. And I've read with him, I've read that deck quite a few times because I've had it about 6 years. And he sends you a signed card. He autographs every one of his decks. And that's why they're made out of a really incredible fabric paper that's really sturdy. So I like it. And when I've used it, those palaces, when they show up, that's pretty much true. That's where the reading was going with that. Now, let's see. This is a trick. This is called Lunasol. And you see the sun's on one side and the moon's below. When you get a pack of cards that have this kind of back, where you can't tell which way is up, that means they're encouraging you to read reverses if you choose to. When you get a pack that has this on its back, where obviously one way is up, they do not want you to read reverses. And this guy, when he wrote his little white book that went with it, there's no reverses in it. You can't read a reverse on this.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is his Ace of Wands, which is light and lovely. But this is his Five of Swords. Not too many questions. If you get pulled that one, you know where you're going with it. Take no prisoners.
Yeah.
The devil's not a scary. He's almost like a creature in the woods. It's kind of more benign. But his death is pretty much deathy.
Yeah.
And he also gives you extra cards, one of which means the in the enlightening of the soul, and this is the battle between the dark and the light. Right. And I pulled one card out of this deck because this is a card that I saw that was the reason I bought this deck. That's the Four of Coins, and you always see that guy holding 4 coins, and people say, "Are you holding stuff back?" Okay, look at him. He's got them under his arms and and he's holding his hands. The door ahead of him is locked, and the key is on the floor. I've never seen a better pictorial view of what a Four of Coins is about. You got to let go of something if you're going to go forward. That's all there is to it. My arms getting tired here. Okay. Then I have kitschy decks. This is the Housewives Tarot. That's the Ace of Wands. Its Five of Swords is putting a get dressed together properly. Its devil is the devil's food cake. And then you have to read all the things around it, like spork and all these things that are like, and cigarettes and things you shouldn't have that make you sick. And this is the death card, and it's a jar of salmonella.
Oh God.
But I love that deck. When I used to read at Dolly's in the vintage store, I used to use it a lot because the images were things people could really relate to. Then we're gonna look at this is gonna be the end of my decks, guys, I promise. And this is not all I had. I spent all morning. Do I use this one or that one? This is one of the most abstract decks. It's called Mystic Mondays. That's the Ace of Wands. That's the Five of Swords. That's the Devil, which I think is kind of an interesting.
Wow, it is. Yeah.
Is the devil inside me or is the devil outside me? Am I inviting the devil in? I mean, there's a bazillion ways to read. Look at that card.
Yeah.
And this is death.
That looks like a coral snake going up into the ear.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, and what I like about this deck, it's like this. You can read reverses on it. Her book's very plain, but her book's a very contemporary look and a very metaphysical look at the cards. You might like that. Now, the most abstract deck I have, and if you're, it's called Life is Like a Board Game, and it's based on Monopoly cards. So this is the Ace of Wands, and it's the Passion and Desire Gardens when you get the Ace of Wands. Five of Wands is Conflict Gardens. Death it's just death, and they let you do with it what you want. The devil is what traps you. That's the isms. That's OCD.
Yeah.
That's rest. But in honor of my little guy here that has to decide what he's going to do about his 4 coins, the 4 coins in this is Holding On Tight Avenue. and they really are funny. And when people ask me about a deck, it's got a back so you can read either side. It does not come with an interpretation book because the cards are the interpretation. And when I used to teach tarot, I used to give each one of my students one of these small decks. That's actually why I have one. It's the last one from the ones I have left from when I taught. And I would give them one that was plain. And then the last class I taught, I only had a week to teach them. So I gave them a second deck and a marker that could write on that card. And I would tell them to write the impressions. And that's another way to teach yourself, because it's like working with these cards. I tell people these are great cards. Every avenue makes sense with what I understand the basic tarot meanings to be. And I teach keyword. That's how I learned.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people I like. The other person I particularly like is Radley Valentine, and I use a lot of his decks. And they're none of them. He doesn't believe in reverses, so he designs the back of the deck so you can see there's no reverses, and he has very elaborate images, and so you can work with them and read with them and just enjoy it. And that's what's really important. Which of the visuals in this would you enjoy looking at? Right. Don't buy. I've seen some decks that are so freaking ugly or impossible to read. I have a deck of cards someone gave me because they knew I love flowers, and I would defy anyone to read. If you want, I'll bring that on.
Again, I have a few of those too. I have a few of those.
Yeah, I mean, you buy them and you take a chance. Years ago, they had sites where you could look at every single card in the deck and kind of decide. And I'll tell you, egotistically, my card is the Queen of Swords. I won't buy a deck that has an ugly Queen of Swords.
Yeah.
So now I'm handing it over to Danny. If you guys have questions, please feel free. Type them in bold, in capitals.
Yeah, and we'll get to them if we can. So one of the crazy decks for me was the Starman deck. And looking at that, it's the artwork by the guy who designed David Bowie's album covers. So they're very bright, very busy. If I would hold one up in front of the camera, you wouldn't be able to see what it is because it's so it's just so busy. There's another deck that I have that I love, which is the Brady Tarot deck. And this one is extremely busy, but the imagery is so great on it, I've stuck with it. This one, though, because the imagery is very animalistic, very nature-based, it's important to read the book with this because I don't understand it intuitively yet. I can kind of get it, but it's really important if I use this book to make sure I read the book on it. So let me just go through a couple of decks. So again, I agree with Nancy that we have to start out, if you're learning tarot, start out with the Rider-Waite. I just think that if you get stuck with the meaning, you can go online, look it up, and all of the online stuff is based off of the Rider-Waite, and you can get your keywords and get a better idea of what it is. And then you can move on to other ones. And something that you said that is so important is stringing the cards along to tell the story. So it's super important that when you start with like you were talking about your 5 of Swords, where it's like you're now moving on to a better place. place, right? With after you've had all these trials and tribulations, maybe you get to move on to a better place, which is exactly what the Six of Swords leads us to. So it kind of strings it together. And for me, every time I am watching somebody pull cards and hear their interpretations, I pick up a little bit of something with it. So I think it's important to hear how other people interpret the cards, and you can pick something up or you can not. It's all good. So here's the cards that I picked. Let me see, which one am I going to go with? I'm going to go with the Seven of Swords. And in the Rider-Waite, you have the guy sneaking into camp, taking some people's swords, leaving the camp a little defenseless, however, not totally defenseless. So, and he's just a sneaky guy. So the other deck that I really like is my Wild Unknown deck. And this deck is, a lot of it is black and white. There is some color to it. But you have the fox sleeping on one of the swords, and all the other swords are up above him. And it's kind of like he's sleeping with one eye opened. And so to me, this almost feels like what the guys in the camp should have been doing, is slept with one eye open so the thief in the night wouldn't be able to steal the defenses. Right. The other deck that I pulled out that is kind of a crazy deck, and this is the Deviant Moon Tarot. And this to me is, if I'm reading on somebody that has deviant energy, this is the deck. And this deck shows, this is the Seven of Swords. So it shows that you're taking undue chances with all of this energy. Maybe sneaking into camp, maybe you're taking an unnecessary challenge with this. This is another deck that you have to look at the book to get a little bit clearer insights with. The other deck I talked to you about is the Brady Tarot. Again, I just find that the energy of this deck, and looking at it, it's so powerful. But again, you have to meditate with it. You have to become very familiar with it. And the last one of my favorite decks is the Fountain Tarot. This is one that also has an extra card in it, the Fountain card, which I found interesting. But it's a pretty basic card, and it's just got a hand taking 5 swords, leaving 2. And each of these decks, if I'm reading on somebody, if I just want to get a general read, I'll use the Rider-Waite deck or something that is similar to the Rider-Waite deck. But if I want to get a little creative, I'll do the Wild Unknown and have more of an intuitive feel to it. If I just want sharp, hardcore truth, no BS, no fluff, then I go with the Fountain deck. So I find that there's certain decks that I use that will give a different flavor to the readings. And so before I pick up my deck, it's like, well, what am I going to read on? Certainly if I'm going to read on Trump, I'm going to use my Halloween deck because it's just silly. It's goofy. I laugh at it, and his energy is too toxic not to laugh at it. So that's kind
also
of
something basic in that deck. That is there's an underlying to it. There's an underlying sense of there's another layer here, just like Halloween.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think Halloween's evil, guys, but I'm saying It's a time where we're allowed to look at our dark side.
Sure. Sure. And there's some deck, some Oracle deck that I have. It's called a Dark Mirror. And at first, I got that deck along with Work Your Light. And somebody gifted these to me. And I went, what kind of person would give me Dark Mirror and Work Your Light? I go, okay, this is too girly for me. It was when I had shorter hair. And I go, I'm never going to read this. One of my favorite decks. And the Dark Mirror deck isn't as dark as you think, but it really makes you look at, oh, is this something that is really in my wheelhouse that I'm not paying attention to? So both great decks. And the other one, I have to say, when we're talking about Oracle decks and intuitive decks that you don't need a book for, although the PDF is handy, is Andrea's cards,
Right.
Lilac Lanterns. And I find it amazing that people are creating their own decks and doing such great jobs with allowing their guides to come forth and put it down on paper so other people can use them. It's awesome.
Well, it's weird when that happens to you because it's not like you sit down in the corner and say, today I'm going to make a deck or I'm going to make a this or that. There are just times when the energy flows and times when it doesn't. And
yeah,
it's interesting. And it's a real risk of your spirit because you're putting your own spirit out there on the line. And I grew up in a family where no one put anything out on the line because the neighbors might really find out what's on the line.
Yeah. I feel that in my own community, you know. Oh, I don't want to put that out too much in my own neighborhood. I don't like people knowing I do tarot just because I'm not sure I want them in asking for readings and then
I always say I've got my credit card machine. That always dispels anyone who isn't legitimately there.
You say what?
I have my credit card machine here.
What do you say?
Charged? I have my credit card machine here. How do you want to be charged? And then I explained to them my whole theory that unless there's a real exchange of energy, and in our world, the exchange of energy appearance is usually money. What are we going to do about that? And you'd be surprised at how when I used to have parties where I did readings, I didn't charge anybody because I was practicing. But once I got to the point where I charged, I just charged. There's none of this. See you next Thursday. And that's a fair thing to consider. If you're learning how to read, grab any happy butt that wants to sit in that chair and read them because, you know, that's how you learn.
Right.
But once you get to the point that you know you're good enough and you're charging for it, if you are not careful, you will find those people that will show up and say, last time it happened was Halloween before the lockdown. And these guys actually were from my hometown in Illinois, which it's a big place now, but it wasn't all that much. They were in Dallas setting up a Halloween display for somebody. And they said, oh, come on, old hometown things, blah, blah, do it for free. And I said, you won't get a decent reading because my guides don't recognize they're not being exchange power. Why should I give out? So,
yeah.
In other words, that's a great excuse for being a cheap bastard. Somebody is begging me, Dan.
But it's so true. It
true.
Is absolutely true. I am not one to charge for certain things, but with readings, I think that a lot of times, not all the times, that it's important that there is that equal exchange of, and otherwise people just think it's not worth it. So.
And they don't pay attention. I mean, people understand that they get what they pay for. So if they pay you nothing, that's pretty much where they're classifying you're reading it. Yeah. Quick question, Danny, before it disappears. Yes. Someone wants to know, what do you consider deviant energy? I have an answer, but I want you to do it.
Oh, what do I consider deep? Well, I didn't really think about it. I just used the cards. But I would think that it would be something that is more along the lines of trickster energy, something that wants to say, yeah, we're of the light, but we're not. And try to trick you into a dark side or a dark energy.
Yeah, sometimes I think the best way to describe it for me is if I unscrew a jar in the refrigerator that I don't remember when I filled it, and the odor that comes out, if I get that same feeling in my body and I'm talking about something, I realize that's deviant energy. It's rotten.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to use that one from now on.
You can still feel like you can steal.
All right, should we do some readings?
Yes.
While we have, how long, where are we?
We're at 41 minutes.
41. So if we want to do a couple of readings, if anybody has some readings or questions, put them up in all caps so that I can see them with my bad eyes. And I'll try to
do it when you guys got to realize a part of our mind is in reading mode, and it's hard to explain to people, but that really is a different mode of being. And I finally have quit trying to do readings and then drive myself home. I just use Lyft because I find that there's too many. I'm like so opened up that driving down the toll road with cars going by me at 100 miles an hour is not anything I want to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Pam H. She wants a general reading.
Okay.
And so general readings, I'm not using my Deviant Moon cards on you, Pam.
Yeah, and you're safe on my end, honey. Not a whiff of anything bad.
So, in the other deck I use, Colette Baron Reed. I don't know. I haven't found really a bad deck that she has out, but if you're getting into somebody that is just going through a bunch of negative stuff, she has a deck called the Good Tarot, and it's a great soft deck. You can still get some pretty hard messages through there, but that's a good one. Just on that line of, we're not going to use the Deviant Moon. All right. Pam H.
Okay. What one are you reading on?
Pam H.
Pam H.
She wanted a general reading.
Okay, I'm going to give you a housewives reading because these cards are funny.
All right. While you're shuffling, I pulled 3. Okay. So, this is really bad, Pam. You got the Star card. You got the 6 of Pentacles, giving and receiving, and you got a celebration card. Oh my gosh, your general reading. What I'm hearing from these cards is to keep your star bright, to keep your star glowing. Make sure you're generous in giving and receiving advice, and accept and rejoice in your celebration. Don't not celebrate things, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Sometimes we forget to celebrate.
Right. You've been offered something and you're really going to take it. You sat around and waited and you're getting an offer. You're totally prepared for it. You got 3 of Wands. You've got all the tools you could ever need to clean your house and get it all cleaned up. And the one thing that you need to do is not be worried about being judged when you're working on this. Go ahead and do it and have a good time doing it, because You waited a while for this offer to come through to you. So that's where I see you being today in 1950s style. So where do we go
Yay.
next?
I don't know. I'm still trying to work StreamYard. So, okay. Thank you, Pam. All right. So let's see. I'm really bad at StreamYard, y'all. So forgive me if I miss some. Mama Bear. Mama Bear. She wants a general birthday reading.
Okay.
Mama Bear.
Mama Bear. I'm going to do it on Mystic Mondays.
Hmm,
Oh, the other
okay.
thing, you'll see cards. You'll see people shuffle their cards into each other this way, or you'll see them shuffled other way. These cards are so thick. I defy anyone with tiny little hands like mine to do it any other way.
You know, and I find that really true, that there are some decks that I just won't use as much because I can't shuffle them.
Mm-hmm.
They're hard to shuffle.
We're getting old out here, these readers. Our limbs are
Yeah.
going.
This is my original Rider-Waite from 30 years ago. And I haven't worn it out, which is surprising me. And it just shuffles so good. All right, Mama Bear.
Mama Bear, you got the Ten of Pentacles right now sitting around you in your near past. You've gotten your money and stuff together. You still haven't reached the goal you want to get to. Your star is a little reversed, but with the two cards on each side of it, you've got the Ten of Pentacles and the Ten of Cups as your near thing. So whatever the emotional thing you want to come in, it's going to come in. You're just in a great place. You're not meeting all your goals, but I think that's kind of good because it gives us something to work for. So happy birthday, Mama Bear.
Happy birthday, Mama Bear. All right, mine is similar, but a little different because I think you're coming close to a completion cycle. You have, speaking of money, King of Pentacles. So there's a ton of money, a ton of things, and maybe it's not money, but it's the energy is higher energy of what you've accumulated, what you've brought into your life. You have the 10 of Cups, which is a celebration, which is happy times, which is just enjoying life. And then the last card I got for you is the World card. And this is a completion card, but this is you got everything going. This is going to be a great birthday for you. And I think you're going to wrap some things up. If I was to say, you're gonna like complete some, and I think it's some big task.
You're going into a 4-year. You're in a 3-year right now. 3 years where you build communications, build groups, build connections. But you're going into a 4-year, and a 4-year is a year when you go and complete a lot of things, create a better base, and you build the base you're going to have for the rest of your time out to your 9-year. So you're doing it. You've done a good base because you wouldn't have had the 10 of Pentacles and the 10 of Cups. So you got a spectacular 4-year, girl.
Yeah.
Personal year. You had the birth month, the birth date, and then we're in a 6-year because 2022 adds up to 6. So her birth date's the 11, then a 6 at 17. 17. Did I do that right? 17 and 6 is 23. She's going into a 5-year. She's okay, going into freedom and chaos year, but you're in the freedom side. You did a great job wrapping stuff up. You were right, Danny. She has 4 years of where you wrap a lot of stuff up.
What'd you say? Did you say I was right? I love it when women tell me I'm right.
You're always right. And I think you should keep your beard. And I know it's making you crazy. So,
oh my God. So it's been just a little health update. It's been about a month since I first got shingles. And I couldn't shave because of shingles. And, but I think it's finally done. I still feel a little weird, but I don't have any of the sores anymore. So that's good. All right. 3 cards. We have anyway, it's, yeah, this is driving me nuts too. The beard's driving me crazy, but thank you for that.
No,
So
it looks
indigo.
good on you. I mean, some people would have a scrappy, nasty looking beard, and you don't. It's a very nice looking beard, just
Well,
like your
thank you.
hair.
Thank you. Should I dye my beard purple?
Yeah, be stunning. I actually read a lady on Saturday when I was doing for real readings in the flesh at Dolly's, and she had dyed her hair purple. And I said, "Why'd you do it?" And she said, "I got out of the corporate world and I could just do it." And I just said, "Screw them all." And since her hair, she said, "When you dyed your hair purple, did your whole world turn around?" I said, "My whole world's so weird we wouldn't know." But she's completely turned her life around. She's a really nice lady. Okay. We're going to do 3 cards on what will my finances improve. Okay.
Indigo, will her finances improve this month? I don't know. Are you playing the Powerball? What is it? 1.5 billion?
It was last night.
Yeah, but nobody won.
I presume that my son who does this did not win because I didn't hear the shout.
He did not.
No.
So,
I won 3,000 once on a Powerball thing, though.
Wow. Okay. Indigo finances.
Well, girl, I got good news for you. It's going to improve. You're getting much, much closer to your goals. You're actually moving really, really towards them. Your problem is get out of your own head. It's 5 of Cups.
That's what I'm getting.
You keep getting, oh, but it was going so well before and then it all fell apart. Just stop it. Just say it's going so well. Forget that. But then ditch that language. You're undermining yourself mentally. And that one, since in the future, it's not here yet. What I see is you've got a clear eye on your goals and you're moving towards them. Don't let your own thinking block you. What do you got, Danny?
Yeah, I got the same thing. I got the Knight of Pentacles. So yes, it is going to change if. And then I got the 5 of Pentacles, which is, complete loss. But all you got to do is go into the church and get warmed up. You're still hanging out in the cold, along with this 3 of Hearts, 3 of Swords energy. It feels like you're not allowing the money to come in. So you've got to go into the church, get out of the cold, let go of the limiting beliefs, because you've got this Knight of Pentacles coming at you. I said King. It's a Knight of Pentacles. And it's that Knight of Pentacles is slow moving, but it is coming your way. So just work on staying really positive and getting rid of the negative limiting beliefs that you have.
And the way I finally beat these voices, that when I'd be moving on something and I go, oh, but it's not for you or whatever, I'd listen to who was talking to me. And I would identify the voice from my background that had planted that in my head. And I'd say, thank you for sharing, but you no longer live here. And you'll find them going faster. You just have to do that. And I know it's hard because it's really easy. Unless you really actively work at it, we're programmed to do 90% of what we do by the time we're 31. And so if you don't start reprogramming yourself, and then you've got to do it on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really great tool, is just saying thank you, but you don't belong here anymore. Mm-hmm. So the other thing too,
100 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tore down my fort fat that was surrounding my heart. Said I want my heart open.
Right.
The only way I could do that was to get out of my 300 plus pounds mode.
Right. Absolutely. So I pulled an oracle on how to do this, and I'm using Return of Spirit. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, when I'm pulling an oracle, I was thinking, oh, should I use Work Your Light? Should I use Angels and Guides? And I just heard really clear, no, return to spirit. So we have to trust our intuition as to what deck is calling us. This goes along with just what we're saying. The Oracle card for you is confidence. So you've got to let go of that negative belief, have confidence in saying you don't live here anymore. And I think you're going to surprise yourself.
Okay, I pulled an Oracle card from the Power of Surrender deck, which I really love. I actually have a version of it in my phone. So when I do phone readings, I send people a card. And it says, surrender to what is. Flow with the what is instead of fighting it. And that may be what you do. You keep fighting and trying to push it too fast. You can't change a situation but by compassionately accepting it, it will actually bring you peace. So just kind of let go and let it play itself out. It's because it's moving. Everything shows it's moving in the right direction. It's just when you push or pull or try to create too hard, it doesn't.
Yeah, she says she has like crazy bills and just out of, up the wazoo, she said. So I'm just repeating what she said. I'm retweeting.
That makes it hard to sit still on it when it's up your wazoo.
Yeah, right. And I think a good diuretic might help.
I don't know.
Okay. No.
I will let this too will pass. That's all I can say.
Okay. Let's see. Who else do we have?
Prince Charming's mom at 1243.
Where?
Right two below what you just read.
Oh, I don't know where. What did she say?
Can I have a November reading?
November. Okay, I'm not going to put it up because I can't find it. So November, Prince Charming's mom, November.
Okay, get Prince Charming's mom this deck. Life is like a board game, Prince Charming's mom. That's what you're going to get today.
Wow. It's a little month for you in November.
Yeah, just a tiny bit.
Yeah, just.
Very good.
You gonna go?
Yep. You've got, remember the Four of Pentacles where that guy had to finally let something go so he could move forward? You've done it. You finally let it go. You're not being controlling over that anymore. And you have the clarity way, which is the Ace of Swords. That means you're ready to move forward in your justice and in your strength. And you are no longer going to sit around and wait for everybody to agree with you before you move. You're going to say, I know I need to move. Get out of the way. So I think it looks great. What'd you get?
I got little teeny cards. They're really small. Where's my camera? I got the Hierophant. And I like this because you were talking about the key where you have to let something go. Well, the Hierophant has the key that you're using. You also got Temperance. So it's a little bit of, even though, as Nancy was saying, you got the key, get out of my way, there is still a little bit of balance that I see that you probably should be paying attention to.
Right.
But you got the Strength card at the last card. So you got the higher order of the Hierophant, you got the balance, and then you got the Strength. You have it all going, and they're huge cards, major arcana. So great month ahead for you. Great month. Okay. I don't have to hide her comment because I couldn't put it up. Okay. Let's see. Do we have anybody else? No. Everybody's good, I think.
Well, the only one we already answered the question, really. I'm not going to talk about MBS being the Antichrist. Sorry, guys. This isn't what I do.
Am I not seeing all the comments?
I have no idea, but we've got two right beside each other at 12:46. One is there romance in the cards for me? Thank you. And the second one, just two below it, is if I find myself sabotaging myself so much, I would really love a reading. Well, I think, Vicki, we already gave you the best advice we have. I can look and see if you sabotage yourself. Look at the timestamps, Danny.
Yeah, I'm trying. I only get to 11:02.
Well, then I don't know what happened to your system. But the first one is from Nivra. And is there romance in the cards for me? We can do that real fast. And then do Vicki, because she's been talking to us all day. If I find myself sabotaging. And then
okay. Well, let's do romance.
Okay. I'm going to use my regular cards. You know, I did a huge Halloween party Saturday night, and I only had one person ask about romance.
Wow.
I know. And she was the same age as the rest of the card. She was a middle-aged or finer woman.
Who is this asking romance?
Nivra.
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 I'm going to ask if you're going to find someone in the next 6 months. I always put a time frame on romance questions because I could say you're going to find your perfect mate, and if it doesn't happen for 40 years, you're going to be swearing at me. So.
6 months.
Oh, girl. Woo. Your in card is the Tower, and I know why you're asking this. It seems like so much of all your access to people's fallen away, but that's been a clean out you've needed to do for a long time. You're at totally new beginnings. You're like the new Nivra, like the new 2023 models coming out. And you're walking away from the troublemakers. You're walking away from the ones that you fight with all the time. You're not going to view romance as a challenge. You're going to view romance as a coming together with people. So yeah, you're having a complete mindset change, and that would say yes, that someone's going to show up in the next 6 months. I'm not saying it's Mr. Forever or Miss Forever.
Right.
Sorry, that assumption. But I'm going to say you're going to meet people that are going to let you see the better side of yourself.
Yeah. I got something similar too. I got the World card, which to me that's a definite yes card. But the caution card I got was the Devil card. So and then I got the 10 of Wands. And the way that I'm reading this in a relationship is that, especially with this 10 of Wands, it's a journey. It's not something that is going to be like a lightning bolt or something like this. It's a path, and it's there's nobody it's not like it feels like you may be setting the romance too high on a perch, and you've got to be careful with that. So just take people with all their picadillies and warts and find the joy in them, and make sure you're not being addicted to something and being chained to something with this Devil card. So romance shouldn't be chained to somebody. It should be a free-flowing thing. So, and I just see it as a journey. But with this World card, wow, it is powerful.
It's changing around you, girl. I think the card Danny saw about the Devil is you were raised to believe that saving people was loving people, and that's not the same thing.
Ah, yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
she's been in a family of you're our rescuer, you're the healer. You don't have to be. You need to view romance as something you share with someone, not
Right,
something that you give. And
right.
that's the
And
part.
because of the 10 of Wands, I see 10 romances. In the
Mhm.
kidding.
The girl's gonna be exhausted. She won't know if she's overworking or what.
I know. Oh
I
my God.
I'm going to find myself sabotaging myself. So we're going to read Mystic Mondays for me. Vicky, I find myself sabotaging. Don't use that word with me, guys. I have a hard time with it. Sabotaging myself so much. I would really love a reading. So we're going to read about what's the energy around you for the next 3 months. Is that okay? That work, Mr.
Okay.
Danny?
Okay. I was trying to play with StreamYard to get my comments to show, but yeah, I'm still stuck on 1107. So
Jesus. Well, I've got all of them. I can look
I'm
down.
glad you do. So what? Tell me the name again.
Vicky,
Vicky. And why is she?
she said, I find myself sabotaging myself. Aha. Oh dear. Okay. And I'm looking at her next 3 months and what's the lesson she needs to learn from this. And it's real interesting. It says, someone says, I miss your face, Danny. His beard's not that big. Your answer is you invest, and when you invest in something, you don't let go. And even when it turns upside down on you, you don't let go. That's how you're self-sabotaging yourself. But I see you've made the decision to not live under the 9 of Swords anymore. It's reversed. So you're going to finally stand up, let all those swords go, and quit daydreaming the worst possible outcomes. I can tell you right now, guys, what you manifest is what you carry on the front of your head. I mean, it's like for the universe, it's like tattooed on the front of your head, and you've actually chosen to kick me. And if they didn't kick you, then you figured out a way to make sure they did. You're letting that go. The fact you even asked that question means you're letting it go.
Yeah.
So please,
Yeah.
I'm going to pull a oracle card on this one too. But please, you are in a position where you can let it go. Go, Dan.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm just going to echo pretty much what Nancy said. This card flew out, which is the Six of Cups, and so to me, when I get this, it's like go back to a more innocent time. Go back to a time where you weren't kicking yourself, when you weren't second guessing yourself, and thinking things that were not for your highest interest. The 3 cards I pulled, you have the Queen of Pentacles. So you know who you are, you know what you deserve, you're bringing that in, but you are feeling restricted with the 8 of Swords because you've got the Emperor, you've got the High Priestess reversed, which tells me that you're not allowing the good thoughts in, you're allowing the thoughts that are upside down coming into your head. So you are self-sabotaging yourself a little bit. Go back to a more innocent time. And again, tell those negative thoughts they can't live here anymore. That's what we said to somebody before. They're just not allowed. Thank you. Move on.
Okay. And your card, you got to surrender to the complete healing. And that's what we see you're going to go into. Open fully up to loving, compassionate forces of the universe that support your physical, emotional, and spiritual healing. In other words, quit dwelling on those thoughts. Pull every one of those 9 of Swords out of your back and say, don't come here no more. And let the universe fill you with healing. And it can happen. Trust me. It did for me. Okay,
all
are we
right.
done?
We are done. We're at 9:10, so we're gonna end it.
Okay.
So Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, Nancy, for coming on and sharing your tarot insights. It was awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to do a
Awesome.
show on just oracle cards because they're their own special thing.
They're their own special thing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry we didn't get to all the questions. Maybe next time.
Yes.
All right. Thank you
Bye,
again for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.